Well, hello again and welcome to Bobo Bun. I'm Lisa, a vintage inspired dressmaker and dressmaking teacher. So thank you for joining me today. In my last video, I talked about some of my autumn sewing plans, and you know, after I filmed that, I couldn't stop thinking about making this. I kind of felt obsessed. And when I was teaching my sewing class on the Friday morning, I remembered that my local fabric shop, I do get quite a decent discount. I get 15% discount there anyway, but they had a 20% discount on everything and it was ending that day. And I thought, well, if I go down that day, I can get some of my supplies. And I did actually pop in some lovely sort of velour-y, stretch velour-y, sort of velvety fabric, which I actually must pop in the machine. I popped that in and some denim to make some jeans, so I did add that to my coat buying supplies, and I know you're going to see a little bit of that coat already there. That's what we're talking about today. I got on with making the coat, so yes, this one, and because I've chosen a very similar colour, a wool I got from a charity shop, it looks very much like the one on the packet. So that was Friday. I got all of my supplies. Because the coat will be dry cleaned, I didn't need to pre-wash anything, just steam it all a little bit for shrinkage. And on Saturday afternoon, after I taught the morning class, I cut out all my pieces. There's a lot to cut out, and I will show you that in a moment. So I ironed my pattern pieces, which I've never done before. Felt like a butler ironing the newspaper, but I ironed those because they were quite crinkled. I had to assess before I cut out the size, because the pattern is a size 16, which is a 36-inch bust, but the waist is far too small for me on that size pattern, you know, the vintage size patterns. I'd need a 20. But for my high bust, even though I'm busty, my high bust is the 16, 36 inches. So I thought, rather than doing a toile, I'm just going to measure this pattern to gauge the finished pattern measurements and decide whether I'm going to grade out at the waist and the hips. But once I measured the pattern, I found there was enough ease in the pattern, and I didn't want it to be as big as this, but actually it still feels quite flowy on me, but I knew it would fit really well around the top. I knew the coat was going to fit well around the top, fit everywhere else. All I need to do, I measured the length of the coat and the sleeve, so I lengthened both a little bit because I'm 6'1", so, you know, it's taken as read. You know, most patterns are drafted for around 5'3", 5'4", so you know if you're above that, you're going to pretty much have to lengthen your pattern. Now, funny enough, when I was working on the pattern, it says at the top here, for more detailed instructions, see McCall's Easy Sewing Book. I only saw that halfway through and I thought, funnily enough, I've got that book. I found this book on one of my many treasure hunting expeditions. So there's so many instructions in here that relate to what I'm doing. You know, sewing my coat. And if you do find a copy of this book, I've got so many vintage sewing manuals, they all offer something slightly different, but get that one, it's fabulous, and it's rather lovely to be sewing this, I believe, I mean, I just said 60, 61, maybe 62, this pattern, but it's lovely to be doing it with the proper manual as well. So my decisions for my coat, I got horsehair canvas iron-on one. You need that to give some structure and strength to across the back, the front, which will go underneath the buttons and the buttonholes, and on the undercollar, so I needed that. I wanted a lining, so I got the leopard print lining to match the fur collar I want to make for the top collar. And I chose to interline my coat because the wool I've got is quite thin, so I want to give it a bit more structure and warmth, but not too warm. So rather than going for the heavier interlining, I chose a flannel, so that will go between the lining and the coat, but it will be attached to the lining. So it's a bit like doing quilting, you know, with batting in the middle. It's a similar thing. So I had to make those decisions. The coat has bound buttonholes, flat pockets, which are just totally beautiful. I'm going to show it you with the coat in a moment. My other decisions with the coat were, do I do that fur collar as a separate one that I make, you know, so it's sort of like a cover that goes over, and you'd have some buttons around the neck to attach it to, or you could take it off and just have a plain, you know, collar. But I think I'm just going to attach fur to the top because I just adore a fur collar on a coat, and I would only be wearing that as such. I just love the glamour of a fur collar on a coat, so that's what I'm doing. But I also need to decide if I'm going to do covered buttons in the same fabric as the coat or get some other buttons. I haven't got any in my stash. I've got loads and loads of vintage buttons in my stash, but nothing the right size or the right colour. So buttons are a decision that have got to be made. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the process with the sewing, some of the techniques and where I got up to, and then after that I will show you where I'm at with the coat. Now I've got all the bits cut out. There's my coat out. These are the pocket flaps, horsehair interfacing. This flannel is for my interlining to keep me warm, which I'll show you later how I sew that. That's a bit different. The horsehair interfacing will be attached to the coat, and the interlining will be attached to the lining here that I've got, the leopard lining. And then I've got to buy some more fur because it's not wide enough to make my collar, which is really annoying. So I have tried patching it together to see if that would be noticeable, so we shall see. So what I've done so far, I've pinned, I mean the flaps are the first you have to do. If we look at the coat instructions, they want you to make the flaps and then work on the bound buttonholes. If I just zoom in to show you, work on the bound buttonholes. It makes sense without the weight of a coat. But I like to pin everything I can together, so I've pinned all the darts in the sleeve, which is, I'm trying to see where that is to show you. Can't see, there's the dart in the sleeve. I pinned the back together, pinned the pocket flaps to sew, the dart for the front of the coat and the centre back. So I've pinned all those pieces together, and I'll do the same on the lining. I just like to pin everything I can, then put it all together, and then I shall be working through these steps as I should. But I just like to get ahead as much as I can. Now interlining is quite bulky, so what you have to do is, rather than sewing a seam and making extra bulk, you want to make a flat piece of fabric that you will underline, you know, it's the same principle as underlining, attaching it to the lining, you know, wrong sides together, and that will be sandwiched. It's a bit like a quilt really. It's sandwiched between the lining and the coat outer, just to give you that warmth. So can you see here, I'm placing the two seams of the back together, and I've got a wide zigzag stitch, I think, here, and if I lift the background just to show you how the light works here today, if not, I have to show the table. You see I've zigzagged over that seam to hold the two pieces together, and I will do the same with the dart on the sleeve. I'll cut down that line, so I'm pulling things off there. I'll cut down the line on the dart, cut that away, and then you piece those two sides together. Imagine that's the dart, bring those two bits together and sew them. If I just flatten this out, I might be able to show you. I'm just holding the camera rather than setting this up properly today. You see how it just goes. So the foot is centred on that seam line, and I'm zigzagging either side. I had all my pieces to put together. So this is the undercollar with the horsehair, it's an iron-on horsehair canvas, and then I had to stitch through all these lines, you'll see them on the right side, which will make the roll, it's almost like the collar stand, you know, it will make the roll so it reinforces it. So it's a tailoring technique just to reinforce that and help it roll. So that is prepared. You can see the illustration for that there. And I've sewn two of my pocket pieces together, and then I've got another piece over there that's all solid. Whilst I want to show you the darts. This is the dart on the front of the coat section. I'll show you here. So that's the front of the dart, and this is the facing that will go back there. And because it's wool, cut it open so you don't get that real bulk. Cut it and press it open, and you can only go so far, and then that end you press over. So that's what you do with those. So those have got to be pocketed now. I've got my pocket flaps here, they're all sewn. Then I've tacked together that top, and when they're on, that will be folded over like so. So that will be my pocket flaps with the leopard print lining. I've got my lining pieces sewn together here. I've done the darts for the elbow on the sleeves, and then this is my flannel interlining. So I thought I'd just show you. I wonder if it's the one I'd really patched together. No, it's not, it's this one. How it's sewn together. So that's the elbow dart. So I just cut that away and then pieced those bits in together. And I didn't have enough fabric to cut this on the grain, so I had to patch it together. And because it's the interlining, it really doesn't matter because it's all laid flat, and you sew the pieces together as I showed you, zigzagging across. So I've got all my pieces together, so I'm going to get on with the pockets now. Let's go over here. So I shall be doing this bit. So once I've got the pockets on and put that part of the coat together, I'm going to show you where I'm at with that. I'm absolutely, sorry, I feel a bit dwarfed by her. I'm absolutely loving every part of sewing this coat. I've shown you all of the pieces so far. This is the outer of the coat put together with the under collar now attached to the coat. And you can see the front darts here and the raglan sleeve that comes down like so. I've just pinned back these facings so I could see how this will come underneath here. I'll just put them back properly, just unpin those. I haven't sewn the facings, I've just pinned them back so I could see how it will all work. But these are my bound buttonholes. They've obviously got to be cut through onto the back so that they actually work as a buttonhole. But I'm going to unpin all of this now and show you those bits on the inside. I just unpin the facing there so you can see my bound buttonholes on the messy side, and this is what they look like with the lips on the outside. And I've got the inside of my pockets. I need to tilt the camera down, don't I? These are the inside of the pockets here, and you know, you've got your interfacing, and the outer of my pocket is here with the flaps, and then you see the lining in there. So this is my coat, all raw edges and the seams all pressed through. So what I absolutely love about tailoring, I love all of this building up that you get in tailoring. You're building up those layers to create something. So all of what looks like a mess inside will be hidden away, which is quite a shame because I love all the working. I suppose it's like looking inside a machine, isn't it? And seeing all the bits and bobs. But I love how you just build up. So my next job is I've got to attach the upper collar, the fur collar, to the under collar, and I've got to attach the back facing to these edges, and then I can attach that in like so and turn it all round. Once I've got that done with the collar and the facing sewn, it will be a case of attaching the lining to the interlining and popping that in the coat. So there's still quite a bit to do. I'm not going to rush to finish this for now. I'll be showing you that in another video. I just think it's rather nice to get to this stage and show you where I'm at in the coat making process. So until the next video, this will have to be a two-part jobby, won't it? Thank you for joining me today. I always hug Foxy Lady when I'm standing here chatting to you. But thank you for joining me today. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe and comment. Let me know what you think, and let your friends know if they so too that I'm over here, because I'd love you all to join me. So until next time, bye bye, see you very soon.